Just gone by was the sports update. Many thanks to the sports team. A reminder, sports comes your way each and every weekday morning right here on 3FM Sunrise. We do have a lot on the bill this morning. Something that should definitely concern and also excite us all as fellow Ghanaians. But here's some exciting news from Ashesi University, which has been expanding access over the past few years, adding new undergraduate programs and master's programs. Now, Ashesi has introduced a two-intake admissions system for undergraduate applicants, so students can start their studies in either a September cohort or a January cohort. It's all part of a goal to welcome more bright minds into the Ashesi community. Learn more at ashesi.edu.gh. That's ashesi.edu.gh. We'll pause now for a quick break.
You do love kitchen.
When we come back, there's more right here on 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Don't go too far.
Shine, rise and shine. It's another day to stay on point. Toast is spread, it's still on point. Watch it spread it all day long. Still on point, yes, it's still on point.
It's still on point.
Watch it spread,
It's still on point.
for your bread,
It's still on point.
for your
It's
toast.
still on point.
It's yummy,
It's
delicious.
still on point.
Still on point, yes, it's still on point.
It's still on point.
Still on point, yes, it's still on point.
It's still on point.
For your toast, it's still on point.
It's still on point.
Watch it spread, it's yummy,
It's
delicious.
still on point.
Fortune spread. Delicious, creamy, and always on point. This advert is FDA approved.
Calipo. I drink my Calipo every day. Every day. Favorite fruit juice any day. Any day. Calipo taste me get dope. Dope. Just a sip makes me wanna dance. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo feti asa. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo numna asa. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo pop 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 pop. Calipo.
3FM Sunrise.
Sunrise on 3FM. Shine with us.
Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. The morning.
Sunrise on 3FM. Shine with us.
Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. The best in the morning.
3FM Sunrise.
on the ones and twos. And that's how you know it's about to be an exquisite Wednesday. And May has really run. Today is the 21st. I want to know why Crosby decided to wear red this morning, but maybe I won't probe too deep into the matter. We have pertinent issues, you and I, to sink our teeth into. It's one that we've tabled for a big discussion this morning, and this has to do with a national development plan. Our question this morning, are we chasing the wind? Let's take a listen, though, to the President of the Republic very quickly. We'll come in the studio, have a bit of a chit-chat, and then we will expand the tentacles of this conversation. As always, you too can lend your voice to the discussions. Simply follow us on the socials, and you can find us on X, on Facebook, also on Instagram. The hashtag that we're using this morning, it is hashtag 3FM Sunrise. But let's listen to the President. When we come back, we talk some more.
Ghanaians increasingly demand a stable and predictable path for national development that transcends our electoral cycles and partisan politics. Here I'm reminded of the words of Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in his visionary 7-year development plan, and he stated, "The economic policies will lack direction and consistency unless they are firmly related to a clear vision of the structure of the economy towards which we are moving. It is only in the longer view," he said longer view, "that it is rational to project any really radical transformation of our economic system." And he goes on to say, "In the very short period, we remain prisoners of our past." Since the completion of the 40-year National Development Plan in 2017, under the leadership of Dr. Nee Mue Thompson, who now returns to chair the commission, other frameworks with similar long-term ambitions have emerged. Notable among these are the Ghana Beyond Aid Charter, the Ghana at 100 Long-Term Development Framework, and the Vision 2057 Perspective Framework. I urge the Commission to consolidate all these various efforts into a coherent, inclusive, and forward-looking national development plan. This must be done in close collaboration and consultation with Parliament and the people's representatives to ensure that the final plan reflects a broad national consensus and is subject to regular review in response to evolving domestic and global challenges. The task before...
All right, so that was the President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, speaking there on the need for a national development plan. He also highlights some interventions that have been made in that stride. And this is not a new conversation. It's one that rears its head every now and then. Crosby, this idea of a national development plan, it's not new. It's one that many of us discuss as being, of course, optimal for our development as a nation. You look at other jurisdictions who have decided to chart a singular path, and because of that, all of their efforts are geared towards that one singular path. In our part of the world, and in Ghana especially, we see how even something like a national development plan can be so polarizing because everybody comes with their own agenda, ideas and ideals, and it seems as though we don't really want to collaborate to have just that one. We say we are one people with one destiny.
We have various ways
of getting to that destiny. So we are once again at this table discussing issues about a national development plan. I want to pick your preliminary thoughts, and then also really what should the ingredients of a national development plan really entail. Of course, I'm sure it should cover, or it will cover, all aspects of our lives. Is it geared only towards fiscal prosperity? Is it geared only towards development? Does it shape even culture as we move forward? What are your thoughts?
Well, let me pick up from where you ended off, and I'm talking about what it should entail. Already, you spoke about how divisive maybe the existing development plan is. So, number one, it should be inclusive. And then number 2 is it should be enforceable. Now, inclusive because we are people from various backgrounds, various political divides. So if Party A is in power and then it decides to follow through with this National Development Plan idea, and then Party A does it to suit itself for subsequent years, then it means that when Party B comes, it will feel it was not part of this plan, so he would also want to start another plan for his or her group of people. It means we're really not going anywhere. The other thing, and I think that should be one of the most important, is the enforceability of the plan. We're not giving you suggestions, we're not giving you opinions, we're giving you a roadmap that you should be binded by. We're not telling you that if you want do this, if you want do this, dualize this road, if you want focus on education for the first 2 years of your administration. That's not what we're asking you. The plan should be enforceable. It should be like mandatory, like you shall do it, so that we know exactly what we're doing, and then we know what is before us, even before we get there. So while we're campaigning, while we want to come into office to develop the nation, we know that, okay, when we come, the National Development Plan says for the first 2 years of my administration, these are the areas I should touch on more, and these are the resources I should expend in doing a few things. But of course, among the thematic pillars of the National Development Plan would be the area of economic transformation. Based on how the world is going, there'll be a lot of conversation, a lot of attention to be put on economic transformation, digital economy, and then innovation, job creation, entrepreneurship. So it should be one of the key thematic areas we should be looking at. I'm looking at the other bit on human capital development, Helen. You know that the resource of a nation is built if the human capital is educated. It has good human capital. So that is something we should also be concerned about. Then we'll look at infrastructure and then urban planning. Now we're struggling with floods. The rains are here.
That's right.
If we don't do infrastructure and urban planning, we are eroding every physical infrastructure that we'll get for ourselves in the plan, because we will begin to build on waterways. Our houses will be flooded. We'll be losing the same human capital we're talking about. But there's a little bit about environment and climate resilience. But most importantly, too, is governance and reforms, public sector reforms. They are a good engine of the country, and then they should be looked at in terms of the national plan. What form of, well, we know what form of governance, but what should it entail? What should be the approach of governance? We're talking about public service, civil service, not only the NPP, NDC bit of government, but, the decentralization efforts, the conversation about, electing assembly members and all of that would come inside, and what will be required of them. So essentially, these should be the components of the plan that we are talking about, in my opinion. But as to where we have come from and where we intend to go, you know that we have for long faced the challenge of policy discontinuity. Successive governments will abandon or, on a good day, revise national plans based on political agendas. And that is on a good day, because on a regular they would abandon it. There are still hospitals, there are still schools that were started by previous administrations that up until now have not been completed. So there's the need for a plan like that to establish non-partisan binding plans, and then it should, of course, transcend political cycles. So these will be my preliminary thoughts on a national development plan for Ghana, and then we'll get into the meat proper.
Now, it is interesting to think about this, whether or not certain interventions that we've seen would have found their way in a national development plan. For example, I think of something like the National Cathedral. in terms of priorities, in terms of where it fits in our socio-economic development? Is that something that maybe as a country we would have thought, oh, maybe this is a good idea, this is something that we should include in our plan? Many other interventions as well. Let's take a trip down memory lane a little bit to look at what our national development plan efforts have looked like. So you've got early plans such as the Kwame Nkrumah's 7-year development plan from 1963 to 1970. That was the plan, or the plans he had put in place, aimed to showcase post-independence progress. However, that was disrupted by political instability. So, that was done away with. We've also seen medium-term plans such as the Ghana Poverty Reduction Strategy, 2001 to 2003. We've also seen the Growth and Poverty Reduction Strategy, 2004 to 2007. And that was implemented, but as we often see, they failed to achieve that intended outcome due to lack of continuity. So that's the running theme. We've seen these interventions. In fact, we're not new to this game, if you will. Not at all. Even the idea.
Intentions for long.
Yes, even the idea of this, long-term development plan. Party A starts it. Okay, it's going. Let's have this long-term plan, 40-year, whatever. Oh, as soon as we see a change, that plan that was termed a national development plan, the other party that comes and says, I didn't start this one. I too have my own long-term national development plan.
Again, that's how come when we want to build the plan, it should be inclusive, and then there should be some bit of enforceability on it. If we're building the plan with all the political parties, maybe for the medium term, all political parties, all political parties, let's use like that.
Okay.
Come and tell us what plan you have for Ghana for the next 20 years. All of them will bring a document. MPP will bring a document, NDC will bring a document, CPP, every party will bring a document. Now, based on the document that has been presented to the committee or to the team, there'll be themes running through all of them. Things that all of them would almost have the same agenda, the same idea as to what to do for Ghana. So now maybe education. MPP wants to build 6 schools, 6 universities. NDC wants to build 6 universities in various, of course, different parts of the country. CPP wants to do something similar. Then under education, then we may say that for the next 20 years, whichever party that is coming into office, because regardless, it will be one of these people who will be head of state or who will be in government within that period. So based on the document that has been provided, we say that we all agree that the next government for the successive government for the next 20 years should build 6 universities in Region A, 1 university in Region B, 1 university in this region. Even if I am not the party in power, because of the enforceability clause, then I will be bound by the document that, I wanted to do this, but because I agreed to this document, then it means I have to go by it. I have to follow it. And of course, there's a spirit behind the document. It will not only be the text or the letter of the document for implementation. There'll be the idea behind it. So there'll be small room for adjustments based on the global needs and the nation's needs at that particular time. It should be enforceable, but there should be room for small room for maneuvering.
I see that Sixtus has his constitution open.
He ran inside.
And, I saw him quickly put the suit on and come in with the constitution. So I'm eager to find out.
Have you exposed me like that?
Oh, I just wanted.
This thing is nice.
Yes, I really like this combo with the handkerchief and the tie. It's one of my favorites.
And I can come and show it.
Coat of arms.
Yes, I'll borrow it. Yes, I saw the coat of arms as well. I won't comment further because I know there's something to do with that.
Feel free. It's actually very memorable.
Okay.
For many years in my student life, I was a speaker of the University of Ghana Parliament.
Okay.
And I was part of a group of young people championing the establishment of a national youth parliament.
Okay.
Yes, we ran with it. In fact, we were part of the National Youth Authority at the time initiated the action plan, kind of, which so we were supposed to be part of all of those things.
Right.
Yeah. So this was something I got as a student leader interested in democracy and politics and at least. So I always were.
We started long ago.
Oh, not be
I didn't
today.
tell you whether this was 2021 or
It's okay.
it was
Because
2022.
I remember when I see
You've been
your
a
pictures,
student for a long time.
when you were in
since you-
Lagos. One of your pictures, you're wearing some Batakali blue and white, some white shirts and some trousers with that the whole Abiam can enter the trousers.
Back to our problems as a nation. So, Crosby, what do you talk about? Then we say, herein comes the National Development Planning Committee. Now, the National Development Planning Commission, NDPC, sorry, did I say committee? I beg your pardon, commission, was established under Articles 86 and 87 of the 1992 Constitution as part of the executive. Now, the National Development Planning Commission Act 1994, Act 479, and the National Development Planning System Act 1994, Act 480, provide the core legal framework for the establishment of the commission and the performance of its functions. They've got their mandates, vision, and mission on their website. But Sixtus, let me hear from you. Where are you taking us in the Constitution? And then we'll carry on.
You've mentioned that because you see, we've had this conversation. We've been having it for a long time, and there have always been plans to set up a framework that would guide development in the country, and those plans have always been met with opposition. Depending on where you sit as a political party, you either support or you kick against the idea. And the very recent attempts we saw, I think at the time they were led by the IEA. A lot of the interactions I attended at the time were organized by the IEA when the NPP was in opposition. And there were conversations about having a 40-year development plan.
That's right.
And the nation has always been sharply divided, or the political class has always been sharply divided between prioritizing a manifesto framework of a political party over a national development framework. But there's always that third school of thought to which I belong, that we can have a national development framework within which all other manifestos are then situated.
In fact, Sixtus, even if there was no national development framework, if you take the policy documents or the manifesto documents of all the parties, they are almost the same.
At least we agree on
a lot of the issues we agree on.
So you mean if you were to take maybe 3 or 4 manifestos, let's say in the just ended 2024 elections, the same themes will run through. Maybe they have a different name for it, but when it comes to education, largely everybody wants to build more infrastructure.
Of course.
When it comes to roads, largely everybody says, I will expand the road networks, I'll make the roads better. When it comes to health, and so on and so forth.
And all of that then if we have the development plan, all of that will fit perfectly
into it. So if we had a plan that said that by 2030 we expected all lower levels of education to be completely free of charge, then you have the political parties drawing their strength based on that particular framework to say that, well, we will be able to offer Ghanaians free infrastructure, or put in place the infrastructure to enable us attain that goal, the 2030 goal, by this time in the 4-year tenure, if you give us your mandate. So it's possible for us to have a bigger framework that says that free SHS for all children by 2030. Then how do we attain that aspiration as a country?
And that becomes
then that becomes the manifesto
exactly.
of
so
the
manifesto
parties.
will now be the roadmap to attaining
the plan or the framework that we have set for ourselves.
But something has just sort of pricked my mind where we talked about putting or juxtaposing different manifestos and then seeing that maybe concurrent theme running through. You also will get instances where different parties are at variance because of their core ideologies, right? So with that, how do we then ensure that it is still within that national development plan umbrella? So, for example, if you have, I guess, if the goal is national prosperity, but everybody thinks if we go this direction, we'll reach it, we go this direction, we'll reach it, how do we ensure that it is streamlined? So you bring the free SHS idea. Party A says, let's do it now. Party B says, maybe we shouldn't do it at all.
We've had this discussion as well, and I think the last one was in the newsroom. I have always maintained that political ideologies don't work in Ghana. And I dare say...
You say it's theoretical
Africa,
only.
It's theoretical. Because we have to align, then we are able to, form ourselves within certain ideological lines that will make us find space within geopolitical expressions.
We'll get a constituency for ourselves.
Exactly.
Right.
But then when we come to the strict adherence to the principles of those, let me give you examples. Who introduced I almost said NHI, but I just remember there's controversy around there.
You want to talk about President Kufuor?
I want to talk about President. Yes. I'm looking for something that has no controversy.
I knew you would start off with that. You're talking about President Kufuor.
I'm talking about President Kufuor. A lot of the social intervention programs that President Kufuor initiated, his party, his administration had no business.
Because that is not their core ideology. They should be thinking more about a capitalist society where business is booming.
Business is booming, individuals are in control of businesses, and then we, the people, are now also looking up to the individuals. That's the kind of expression that we should be seeing.
Could one argue that maybe with the last NPP government, we saw that resurgence of that kind of ideology?
I'm trying very hard.
I'm only saying that because now you're pricking my mind now, and I'm saying that.
No, but even with that,
yes.
I mean, for the sake of argument, because I know that again there's another disagreement over who started free SHS.
Okay.
So I mean, let's forget that argument.
Okay, so that in contrast, let's not forget it. So that in contrast, let me expand it a bit. So that in contrast, if we talk about social interventions and you think about free SHS, you might say so and so started it, but that big push to really get it off the ground, like big push once and for all, you say that was orchestrated by the NPP, and even the NDC cannot take that away from them. Yes, you might have started gradually, but the NPP came and said no more graduals. We are doing it now. And that really would be the kind of ideology that you would have seen maybe with the NDC, with their core mandate. That makes sense. I get you.
Exactly. So for education again, you credit President Mahama for the development of the infrastructure for a takeoff of the policy itself. That is the implementation of free SHS. That if we want to have free SHS, then we should be able to have enough classroom blocks. We should be able to have enough boarding facilities so that you don't have people left stranded because the floodgates have been opened or they have the furniture in the classroom but they don't have the teachers. So somebody put up this infrastructure so that people will be able to have access when we eventually say that every Ghanaian child of school-going age go to school. Do you get it? So when we look at in the strictest of terms, I don't know what the political scientists will say, whether they agree with me or not. But if you look at it in the strictest of senses, I don't think that so far in the Fourth Republic, the two political parties that have dominated, they have not demonstrated a commitment to the ideological lines that they profess.
Strict adherence.
For NDC, we know anything you do, you say that, it's a party of the people, so they are doing it for the people. So that you can understand. The NPP, you would see at variance with the principles that it probably professes. You get it? So when we begin to have the conversation about national development plan, then people are talking about, oh, but I am a social democrat. I am a capitalist.
That's right.
I am a communist. So I don't do this. No, I don't think that in the strictest of senses we have that happening in Ghana. And I think it's another way we limit ourselves. Remember that discussion also came up within the Nkrumah era. The popular statement of we neither face east nor west. You see, we are non-aligned. We forge forward ever. We are forging our own path. Can Ghana not have such a dispensation that it would say that we are committing all political parties, whether you are CPP, whether you are PNC, whether you are PPP, once you win or you are campaigning for the reins of government of this country, your manifesto must be tailored along the desires of the people, the aspirations of the people as captured in that plan. So that by the end of a certain period, we know that this is what we have achieved. This is what we have attained. But what we have seen within this fourth constitutional dispensation is that one government starts a project. Then the next government that comes in says that I want to do this, I want to do that. But the projects that were started previously are not, no attention is paid to them. And we can use the same education. How many E-blocks have not been abandoned? How many? How many E-blocks? And this is the time that education was even the strongest policy or campaign promise of the government that was coming in. But the infrastructure that was initiated to enable a smooth takeoff of that policy, those projects were abandoned. If we had a national development plan that was binding on successive administrations, I don't think that those projects would have been abandoned. And you see, there was another one too, National Sanitation Day or something. The one that I think every first Saturday of the month.
It was Sanitation Day.
It was Sanitation Day. Every Saturday of the month, at the local assembly level, they had to coordinate the sweeping of public spaces, what we would call general cleaning.
Yes.
It used to happen under Mahama 1. Then Akufo-Addo 1, it was stopped. Within the same Akufo-Addo 1, another initiative was announced. Within the same, following the same lines. Then you ask yourself, what are we doing?
It's because we want to have our names slapped on the initiative.
That is the problem. and if, I think health has equally suffered that problem. Agenda 111. When the administration in the face of COVID announced Agenda 111, it was applauded. I mean, we all know that if we have to tackle health emergencies, we have to be able to have the infrastructure ready to deal with it. Because one of the problems identified was the fact that there was simply no infrastructure to deal with COVID, manage COVID.
That's right.
Private sector initiative. We saw some facility, the one led by Senyor Hosi and his people. I forget the name of the group. I think they had it around Ga East, the Ga East hospital side, which was managing COVID cases. And that was a private sector initiative. So all of that thinking probably went into the need for a project or a facility that would deal with such health emergencies. You get it? But again, there were arguments about regional hospitals that had been abandoned, started under the previous administration.
And so those would have fitted nicely into
the Agenda 111. In fact, the argument came up, La General Hospital, why pull it down to build an Agenda 111 project? Why not go into that facility, see how you can turn it around to fit the purpose? That discussion we have had in this country. So you watch the trend of governments, even though in principle, in political theory, you will be told that government is in continuum. It is not so in practice, because as you rightly said, every administration wants to be named after something.
Yes.
You want your name slapped on a hospital because you built it.
That's right.
But should that really be the spirit of it?
But Sixtus, so hold on. With the examples you gave on the sanitation thing and the Agenda 111 thing, so if there was a document that was telling us what to do when it comes to sanitation, and Party A is in power, Party A starts what it believes will take it there. So the National Sanitation Day, for instance. If Party B comes and then also wants to follow that sanitation principle but wants a different approach, that will translate to a different name. Should it be contentious?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think a development plan will be laden with trivialities such as name of a project or name of a, no, I don't think that.
And in fact, I think that might be that might also be a cure, because if you have no choice but everything you call it the Ghana this, the Ghana that desire to have your name or your face on any project will not. I'm thinking you won't be clamoring for it, because I mean, if it's strictly that you name it in a very general Ghanaian sense.
I'll give you another example.
Yes.
The universities. The universities that President Akufo-Addo named.
Yes.
Or should I say renamed?
Yes, well, here it's going to be renamed.
So sector minister, education minister says
yes,
that they are going to rename the renamed. So where are we headed? Even the seat of government, it was what? Jubilee House.
Yes.
No.
Flagstaff.
Flagstaff House. Such a fine name. They renamed to what? Jubilee House.
Such a fine name.
Such a fine name. and in fact, the argument has been made that it was first Jubilee House. You see, so there has to be a certain spirit that binds us even in the naming of our projects. And all of these are things that a national development framework can deal with.
Then it means the national development framework should be decentralized to the very minute elements. Else, if we open it up small, we'll begin to take advantage.
I agree with Crosby. Some elements have to be taken up. But gentlemen, bear with me. We do have Professor Bafo Adjumandria on the phone lines. I'm grateful for the foundation you've laid. But Sixtus, I know you'd opened up the Constitution. What were you going to tell us?
I was going to, and I'm happy Prof is on the line, and I hope he can hear. I want to also blame the Constitution. You know, in the institution of the NDPC, it is subjected to the president of the day. So it is reporting to the president. Okay, first, it is constituted by the president, reporting to the president. It is probably at the direction of the president. That one is my own interpretation. So I keep wondering, if we want to have an apolitical national development plan, but the institution that should see to this
is not free from
as independent
political
as
interference, yeah.
To the extent that automatically when there's a change of administration,
the reporting lines will be affected.
Composition of the commission is changed.
That's right.
Where are we headed?
And in fact, interestingly, if you go on ndpc.gov.gh, you'll see a chronological set out of the journey, the history of NDPC. And then when it finally gets from 2002, you see the swearing in of successive governing boards. And that happens each and every time you see a regime change. So even, as Sixtus is saying, even the commission that is set to govern this development plan is not free from that kind of interference.
And we know the kind of political system we run in this country. Everything NDC is good. Everything MPP is bad. And
when you reverse it.
So are we going to be able to have a commission that thinks Ghana first if the commission answers to the president. And if you go through the functions of the NDPC as outlined in Article 87, you will see that everything, advise the president on this, advise the president on that. It is responsible to the president, that is under Article 86. So is the NDPC itself positioned constitutionally to be able to execute or give Ghana a nationalistic development framework?
Let's speak now with Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. He's the former senior UN governance advisor. Prof, hello, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing?
By His grace, I'm good.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program. We're talking about a subject matter that I'm sure you have had the cause or chance to ruminate on for many, many, many years now. We're talking about a national development plan for Ghana. And my first question, Prof, is what are the main challenges, at least from where you sit, what are the main challenges Ghana has faced in implementing a consistent national development plan over the years?
Thanks, sir. Very good question. It's true that for many years I've been ruminating about development of our country. And the main, if I should be direct to your question, for me, is the nature of politics we have. The nature of politics. Because the nature of politics, to a large extent, determines the success or failure of any development plan or development agenda. In our own country, when we had Kwame Nkrumah as president, and with, of course, there was a time there was no opposition, this idea of 7-year development plan that he introduced,
that's right.
at least the first plan, did see major progress in our development efforts. So when you have a kind of politics as we have, a duopolistic democracy, as I think it is, and there is this intense rivalry because it's a winner-takes-all system, then development becomes a victim of the kinds of development politics that we have. To be more specific, you see, the Constitution has this chapter on National Development Commission. And I think that here was for this commission to develop a long-term strategy for development so that any government that comes in will more or less be guided by that long-term plan. But what we have seen over the past few years of our Fourth Republic is that these governments that we have, the two governments that change power in the country, they do not respect that provision. They come in, they reconstitute the commission in terms of personnel, and whatever that the commission does, we do not see anything of it. And I can be more specific here.
Right.
Because I'm very happy that my good friend Nimoy Thompson has been made the chairman for this newly constituted commission. I'm happy because he was there previously as the Director General when Professor Botwe was the chairman. And they spent a lot of time, energy, and resources to put together a development proposal. I saw a copy some time ago, beautifully done, projecting the country's development to about 40 or 50 years. I've forgotten exactly. I think about 40 or 45 years. And that, I thought, was a fantastic thing they've done. But what we saw was that once the government changed hands, the new government decided to jettison that document, saying that they cannot be bound by that because they have their own plan. And that has been the nature of politics I'm talking about.
Right.
Now we have constituted a new commission. And I'm sure, depending on who comes to power again, whatever they do, will not be requested. So we are having a serious problem of short-sighted development. Short-sighted. Because every government in power wants to impress the people with what I call quick fix development.
Right.
So when we heard of Agenda 111, I knew they can't go anywhere. There's no way anywhere in the world any government can build 111 hospitals in a short space of 5 or 4 years.
Simply not feasible.
It's not feasible. And the same thing, NDC first term under President Mahama, they came with the idea of 200 community secondary schools or something. And by the time they left, they completed maybe roughly 30 or 40 of them. And the rest, the incoming government simply ignored some or tried to complete some. Meanwhile, then think again of the so-called public housing project.
That's right.
That's our government undertaking. And a perfect example is Saglemi.
Indeed.
We borrowed money, $240 or so million, invested in that. And for the past 8 years, they've been allowed to rot. So for me, unless we come together as a people, build a consensus, and I think Nimoy in the inauguration also the other day indicated that it will be all inclusive and all. In his first tenure with the NDPC, they did go around the country and make some people. But unless there's a political consensus on how we want to develop, everything they're going to do will come to nothing. So for me, the biggest challenge has been the nature of politics that we play in this country. That makes the one party sees everything on the other side as bad, and if they come to power, they throw it away. And when this one comes, that has been for me the biggest thing we need to confront.
Now, Prof, you talk about the National Development Planning Commission not, even being insulated from political interference, especially when you look at Articles 86, in particular 87 of the 1992 Constitution that mandates that the commission actually defer to the president, consult with the president, and so on and so forth. Would you say that that could be the cure? That as we are taking a look at our constitution, we need to change the wording and give the NDPC more control. I don't know practically what that would look like, but if the constitution itself seems to give or surrender a lot of the NDPC's powers to the president, if you will, then are we really going to make headway? Because every president we know is coming with his own policies, and we know it's a very polarized society, so they'll do away with the previous government's ideas.
You are hitting the nail right on there. It's polarized. There's no love lost between the two parties. Unfortunately, we just have these two parties. So, look at all those countries that have developed over the past 4 decades around the globe. The countries that Ghanaians cherish, we cite Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, South Korea, India. You mention any of these countries and ask yourself, how long did it take for them to come to where they are? Even China, 30, 40 years ago, China was nowhere. 40 years ago. So ask yourself, what made it possible for the countries outside to move away from their so-called underdevelopment to a development level that they have? And the key issues you are going to discover is a national focus. A national focus means there's little or no distractions. Look, in this country, once the government comes to power, the opposition has to do everything it can to pull it down. So that even if the government is doing something good, they will paint it bad. Because they are waiting anxiously to also come to power and enjoy the perks of office. These are true things we don't need to run away from.
Right.
Okay, so if you look at this country, the longevity of the plan, either under a single leader or something, has been a critical factor in the achievements of the countries that have their side. Now, ask yourself in Ghana, what over the past 32 years. At times I wonder, what major project? In Nkrumah time, we can always refer to Akosombo Dam. Then we came to Tong Dam by a champion, blah, blah, blah. Over the Fourth Republic, what major progress, what major project, groundbreaking project that we can cite as becoming part of the backbone of our development? Even roads, we can't even build roads. Roads, 32 years. You go to Kumasi, go to anywhere in the country, and ask yourself. Even with build railway, we can't even make it functional. I mean, so there's a serious problem, and I think the political class, they don't realize this, and they are only interested in power and how they indulge in self-aggrandizement at the expense of the long-term progress of this country. Look, my sister, we are wasting our lives here. Because, look, I trust Nimoy Tonke, a brilliant brain, excellent experience. But I'm afraid the system will simply not allow him to make the impact that the NDPC should make, because the system will not support it.
Prof, one might say that that's quite a pessimistic view. I mean, or are you just saying that we learn from history that we don't learn from history? We can't beat around the bush. It is what it is.
It is what it is, so far as we don't realize that all this beating about the bush. And people don't want to face the reality. You see, people don't want to face it. You look back and think of development of this country. Why is it that, for instance, everybody is talking about Burkina Faso? Burkina Faso, excuse me, a few decades ago, nobody even thought the country existed by that. Why are we talking about it? Because of the, here I'm not talking about military press, I'm talking about the vision that the country has. So I think we just have to see how, I guess, the point is that we just have to understand that you cannot develop a country on short-term basis. 4 years, you come, before you can settle, you have to go, and the NDPC works, you throw it away because it doesn't fit your manifesto. Parties come to office with their manifesto. Who challenges them on their manifesto? Whether these manifestos are relevant or not. Who has ever, even the media, well, of course, let me be honest here, some media houses over the past year did a good job examining the various manifestos.
That's right.
But these manifestos, why are they talking? Because how many years do they have to stay to be able to even implement the good one? It doesn't work for them, you see. So I think there's a need for a national consensus. When I talk of national consensus, I can even broach the idea of a unified government for a period of 20 years. You see, otherwise, look, NDC will come and go.
That's
NDC
right.
will come and go, and some of us will be dead and gone, and it will be the same.
Now, Prof, I want to ask, before we wrap up on this conversation, how can ordinary Ghanaians then contribute to the success of the national or a national development plan?
I'm glad you asked this question, because in our day, there cannot be what you call centralized development. If you look at China, the countries I mentioned, Singapore is a small city state, Malaysia and others. You notice that while they have the big national agendas, they also allow what you call local development initiatives. So in our case, if you ask about how people can contribute, we have to come back to the notion of decentralization, so that development initiatives can happen at the local levels, the local communities. Here we are with a system that has over-centralized everything we have to do as a people, to the extent that people in rural communities will have to wait for a central government to build them toilets. I mean, it's incredible. How ridiculous. Look, let me be direct on something.
Certainly.
Akufo-Addo in his final year introduced what they call DDEP. You know that DRIP, D-R-I-P.
Yes.
So they brought these machines, working machines to every district so that the district can take charge of their roles. And I was so delighted because for the first time, we were getting the district assemblies to be active in certain areas. In this case, roads that are very, very critical in the rural community. Now this new government comes, and they decided to pull from the district to the region and appoint a national coordinator from Accra who will be going around to control them. This is a small example, but it tells you how when we move one foot forward, the next time it's two backwards.
That's right.
The district people, the district assembly should be given the empowerment to be able to plan and execute, period. So that we don't sit in Accra and think that Ghana is just Accra. It's not true. You go to places in the north, in Bronx, Western, Volta, conditions are deplorable because everybody is waiting for the president, the national government to do things. See, what you call self-reliance is gone. I mean, even in Nkrumah's time, we had what we call self-help projects. In Nkrumah's time, which required local communities to help themselves in certain ways. So they were building schools, they were building toilets, they were sanitation. Look at sanitation, what you have done to sanitation. Our government in this republic have centralized it, given it to one company that is not even capable of keeping a street in Accra clean, and we think it can keep the whole country clean. Our politicians don't think right for us. Simple.
Prof, we've been talking about this for quite some time now. This issue of a national development plan. I've got to say, I don't know how high my optimism levels are after speaking with you this morning, but you highlight some deep-seated issues that really must be tackled. Otherwise, we're just chasing the wind, it would appear. We're very grateful for your time this morning. I'm sure we'll have time to talk about some other themes, of course, as the weeks and months progress. But again, thank you so much, and do have a wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you.
Again, that was Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, former UN Senior Governance Advisor there, talking to us about the need for a national development plan. Well, we do know that we do have one, but are we chasing the wind? And he also put some more flesh on the bones as far as this conversation is concerned.
The President for always championing the correct pronunciation of my name. Mr. President, I would like to thank you for entrusting us with such an important responsibility. And on behalf of all the commissioners, I'd like to pledge our commitment to fulfill to the best of our ability the duties and obligations that come with this responsibility. I would also like to take the opportunity to shed more light on the structure and work of the Commission for the benefit of the media as well as the general public. There are 37 commissioners, a reduction from 49 in the past. It may still seem large, but they work through 8 subcommittees in the following areas: the economy, with the focus on fiscal and monetary policies. And here I'd like to give a nod to the 2 men of the moment, Dr. Forsen and Dr. Johnson Isiama. We will be working closely with them in drawing on their experience and knowledge. The number 2 is transport and logistics, which will be critical to the development of a 24-hour economy. Number 3, energy and private sector development. Number 4, agriculture and natural resources. 5, employment productivity and earnings, 6, public sector reforms and governance, 7, social development, and 8, infrastructure and land use. And we put land use there because of the critical role of land acquisition and land use in infrastructure development. Through the work of the committees and research done by the technical staff, the Commission is expected to advise you, Mr. President, as it has been doing for successive presidents since 1994. But the law also requires the Commission to provide a wider platform for Ghanaians from all walks of life, including parliamentarians, political parties, faith-based organizations, sector ministries, district assemblies, traditional authorities, civil society organizations, think tanks, and individuals who have something to say about their country, Ghana, among others, to contribute to national development planning for the long, medium, and short terms. It is a comprehensive framework that blends popular demands with structured research. No one is left out. Besides development planning, Mr. President, Commission is also mandated to monitor and evaluate the performance of government. This is done through what we call annual progress reports, which include a wealth of information, but sadly remain very obscure. We will change that under this commission, while also digitizing the process to give the public the chance to do what is called civic auditing. That is, the public's chance to monitor the performance of government in real or near real time. Last but not the least in importance is the Commission's role as the brain trust of government on a variety of topics of relevance to Ghana's development agenda. And here I would just like to highlight a couple of them. One of them has to do with the need for us to put a human face to development. For too long, we've heard about GDP growth, and GDP growth, which remains very abstract to the public and even some professionals. What we've decided to do for the next commission is to have what I call three-dimensional or 3D approach to measuring economic performance, which means that we'll measure growth in GDP, we'll measure growth in employment, and we'll measure growth in wages. These are the things that are most relevant to the public and not just mere statistics. And running through all this will be productivity. And I'm glad here I would like to quote you, Mr. President, from something you said last year during the campaign. You said, Ghana must function efficiently. This is the most intuitive definition of the word productivity as used by economists. And this productivity, that is, sets the rich countries apart from the poor ones. The average American farmer, for example, produces over $100,000 $100,000 output per year, while his Ghanaian counterpart produces only about $3,000. That's the difference in productivity. The average American worker produces about $80 an hour. This is why they're able to pay them $10, $12 an hour, while a typical Ghanaian worker produces about $5 an hour. To close this development gap, this must change, and the Commission stands ready to lead in that regard. And then, of course, Mr. President, there's the issue of local economic development, which I know is very close to your heart. I'm aware of your passion for that. Among other things, the Commission intends to revive what was known as the District Business Climate Survey. This was done with the assistance of the Germans. They provided us with technical assistance. I intend to revive it, and I intend to go to Atto and Johnson for money to make it permanent so that once the donors leave, it wouldn't die. But this is meant to give us a pulse of the health of local economies. And at the same time, we also intend to work with the Bank of Ghana, the Ghana Association of Banks, and other relevant stakeholders for us to do for the first time a breakdown
3FM 92.7 Urban Lifestyle Radio Station.
3FM Sunrise.
Now call Ghana, gateway to Africa, gateway to the world. My dear Ghana, sweet, sweet Ghana, set her free, free from the vulture. Ghana, Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah Ghana.
And you know, Kwame Nkrumah also had his 7-year development plan. That one was also not free from political instability. We were speaking with Professor Ejimendu, and I ended with him. I said, Prof, you're not making me feel optimistic. But he says he's here to say it as it is. Until we uproot this polarization canker, we're going to be having this discussion. He also cites countries like Singapore, like Malaysia, and what they have been able to do in a very short time because they have been focused on their future ahead. And these are some of the lessons that we can learn as a country. So, gentlemen, we wrap up this conversation on a national development plan, although I can bet my last city, and there's not a lot of cities, that we will be back here discussing this issue until we decide, like Malaysia, like the Singapores of this world, like the UAEs, that we have really one destiny and that we are one people with one agenda. I don't know what it's going to take for us to stop this go-come merry-go-round situation that is embedded in our very core, our very spirit as a nation. But something has to give. Gentlemen, what is that topmost priority for you that you want to see in a national development plan? At least from where you sit, your priorities will be different.
Six to say your own.
No,
because everywhere.
everywhere it concerns you. Maybe.
No, but I think we are. I'm sorry. I think we are.
Can we get you something to drink? What would you like?
Coffee wouldn't be bad.
All right, I'll organize that. Some sugar, some milk?
Oh, but you know how we do it, black.
If this is giving him coffee, then then I come to remove my throat. You have to give me coffee.
I think we are seeing inroads in
Don't wear red again, you Crosby. Please, let's hear you.
I think we are seeing some really good inroads in education. At least the way...
The man is coming to speak English. They say, which one do you want first?
No, so I ordinarily would have said education.
Okay.
But I'm starting from that point just to say that the work we have seen in the education sector, there's been some great attention on education.
All right.
And I don't think that we are ever going to go back. I think now the concern should be with periodic reviews to see how to, streamline, tame, realign all those English
I couldn't
words.
agree with you more, Sixers, and I think we have to give credit where it's due. We are making some good strides.
We are making some good strides in education.
Yeah.
Coming from FQIP as now FCUP.
Yes, FCUP.
FCUP as
free compulsory
basic
universal
education.
basic education.
Coming from all of that to what we now have free senior high, and President Mahama is adding free first year tertiary, and our second year first year tertiary. So we are making some free TVET.
Yeah.
So we are making great strides in education. So health would be my number one.
Right.
Health would be my number one. And then maybe that would be followed by industry.
Okay.
Industry.
Very important.
Industry, because for a country that is as old as ours, it is not enough that we are still very much import dependent. And even the imports, we are now still talking about second-hand cars, second-hand spare parts, second-hand clothes. We are talking about beef, salted beef. We are talking about pig feet.
You mean our imports?
Our imports.
We import yemwadie.
That one, I always struggle to mention it. Then we are talking about rice. That's one of the painful ones. That for a country that can produce rice to feed itself and even have the potential to export, we still heavily import rice. So I think that industry is health, then industry, or if you like, industry and health. But the two must be prominently featured in whatever plan that we are discussing. But all of this will come to naught without the buy-in.
Without that political will.
Even the buy-in first.
The buy-in of the people.
of the parties, the political parties.
All right, okay.
Because that was where the first one ended. Lots and lots and lots of stakeholder engagements to say, let's adopt a 40-year development plan. So NPP at the time, led by Mr. Yao Osafo-Maafo, said, adopt what for what? We have our manifesto.
That's right.
Why do you want us to adopt your thing?
So for me, to deal with the problem you've just spoken about would be legislation. That we have this document. Whichever party is in power, go by this. Backed by reform to the constitution to accommodate it, so that regardless how you shake yourself, how you want to be stubborn, there's a document.
There's no way you can even wiggle out.
No.
You are bound to.
If you shake yourself,
you can't say it doesn't allow. You have no choice.
No. You can shout, but you can't make noise.
Thank you. Sixtus, I like the sectors that you have mentioned. You mentioned industry. Prof had mentioned Burkina Faso, and he says Burkina Faso, maybe even a decade ago, what really was going on there? Yesterday, I just discovered Burkina Faso has launched its first locally designed and assembled electric car.
Imagine.
The Itawa. A significant step has been marked towards sustainable mobility in the country, and they've released some different models. One is called
locally assembled or locally manufactured.
Locally designed, locally assembled.
Okay.
Locally designed and locally assembled. Okay. That's right. So, a major milestone in Burkina Faso's technological and industrial development. You have to give it up.
No, you have to.
You have to give it up. They're doing some wonderful things.
From a gold processing plant to locally assembled cars, electric cars.
They are doing canned tomatoes now. They're adding some value.
That was one of the biggest that was first announced.
Yes.
Okay. And even the road infrastructure. Part of the documents we read, I've never been to Burkina Faso, said that for all the time that France was at the top, the colonial master was at the top, the road network is nothing to boast about. So that is a third kilometer stretch of road that Burkina Faso can talk about. So, I mean, for me, it is about how we turn things around, guided by what principles and policies and frameworks to be able to benefit our people. So my top three: health, industry, agric.
Mr. Annan.
my top three: health, job creation, and education.
Job creation, health.
Health is first. Job creation, and then education.
I will swallow him under agric and industry. The job creation.
Right, okay.
Agric. The same thing, but I'm speaking different English. He has his own manifesto. I have my own manifesto.
You see where the problem is?
29 after 9. This is still the best breakfast show in all of the land. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. We'll turn our attentions very shortly to the decongestion exercise that took place yesterday. In fact, we're told it's going to be ongoing for the next 2 weeks. Also, we'll also zoom into streetism. Prior to the decongestion exercise, we also saw that mass evacuation of women, children in central parts of the capital. It's all on the table. Don't go too far.